The crowd gathered like animals ready to tear apart a wounded prey. Harsh lights shined down on the open platform of the mining station, revealing a small, shaking figure in chains. It was a Gurlan alien girl, thin, dirty, and clearly starving. Her skin was pale violet, her silver hair tangled and falling over her eyes. She held a broken piece of dry bread in one hand, clutched tightly like it was treasure. 2 guards dragged her forward, and the people started shouting, "Thief! Filthy alien! She deserves worse." Children pointed. Adults spat. No one saw her as a person. To them, she was just another parasite on the edge of survival. Another mouth stealing food from the hard-working people of the station. The commander stepped up, a tall man with cold eyes and a loud voice. He raised his hand for silence, and the noise faded like a wave pulling back. "She was caught stealing from the emergency food storage," he said. "She tried to run, but we caught her. And you know the law? Theft means punishment." The people shouted again, louder this time. Some demanded she be thrown into the waste chute. Others wanted public lashes. One woman even screamed, "Cut." Her hands off, but the girl didn't cry. She didn't beg. She just looked down, holding that piece of bread, as if it was all she had left in the world. Her arms were thin, covered in bruises. Her feet were bare and bleeding. "Do you have anything to say for yourself?" the commander asked. Silence. The girl slowly lifted her face. Her eyes were a deep blue glow, filled not with hate, not with fear, but something else, something broken. She opened her mouth to speak, but no sound came out. The commander sighed and turned to the crowd. "She will be punished. Let this be a lesson to all." The guards raised their shock batons. "That's..." when a voice came from the back. "Wait." The crowd turned. Everyone went silent. A man stepped forward, human, ordinary clothes, a tool belt around his waist. His name was Jack Renner, a maintenance engineer on the lower decks. He wasn't rich, he wasn't powerful, didn't even speak much. But now, all eyes were on him. "What did you say?" the commander asked, annoyed. "I said wait," Jack repeated, walking toward the platform. "She didn't steal out of greed. She's starving. That doesn't change the law," the commander snapped. Jack ignored him. He looked at the girl. She looked back. Something passed between them, something quiet. She didn't speak, but her eyes softened, just slightly. Jack turned to the commander. "I'll take responsibility." Laughter erupted. "You? For her? Have you lost your mind? She'll rob you blind?" Jack stood firm. She was. "Hungry? That bread cost you nothing. But punishing her like this, what does that make us?" The commander narrowed his eyes. "You're protecting a thief. I'm protecting a child." The commander hesitated. He looked at the girl again. She really was small, maybe no more than 16 in human years. Still, she was alien, and aliens weren't trusted here, especially not ones caught stealing. "Fine," the commander said at last. "You want her? She's yours. But if she causes trouble again, we come for both of you." The guards shoved the girl forward, and she stumbled into Jack's arms. He caught her gently. "She's your problem now," one of them muttered. As Jack led her away through the angry watching crowd, the girl didn't say a word. But she stayed close. Very close. Her steps were weak, but she kept moving. Back in his quarters, Jack gave her water first. She drank like someone who hadn't had a sip in days. Then he handed her some food. She didn't grab it like an animal this time. She looked at it, then at him, confused. He smiled softly. "It's okay, you can eat." She took the food slowly and began to eat, chewing carefully like she didn't want to waste even a crumb. "What's your name?" he asked. She paused. Then in a quiet, raspy voice she answered, "Zira." "All right, Zira. You're safe now."
Oh.
She looked at him for a long moment. Then she nodded once and didn't leave his side after that. Not that day, not the next, and not ever again. Zira didn't speak much. She just followed him like a shadow that wouldn't let go, even when Jack walked through the maintenance halls. Fixing old cables or checking pressure valves, she stayed a few steps behind. She didn't touch anything. She didn't ask for food. She simply watched. People started talking. That thief is still with him? She's dangerous? I'm telling you, she's playing innocent. They do that. Jack tried to ignore them. He had lived on the mining station for years. No one ever noticed him before. But now, every whisper, every stare, followed him everywhere he went, and all because of her. At night, she curled up in the corner of his small room. Not on the bed, not even on the floor near it. She made herself small near the air duct, like she expected someone to yell at her if she got too comfortable. He left food for her on the table. She never ate until he said she could. One evening, Jack sat down across from her and spoke softly. You don't have to be afraid here. Zero blinked, her glowing blue eyes fixed on him. Then, in a voice barely louder than a breath, she asked, Why? He paused. No one had ever asked him that before. Not like that. Because I believe you, he said. She tilted her head. No one believes me. I do. After that, she began to help him quietly, carefully. She would pass him tools without being asked. She would sweep the floor before he returned. She even fixed a broken fan once, using pieces from the trash. But still, people didn't stop talking. A group of miners stopped Jack near the lift. Their leader, a thick-necked man with oil-stained gloves, stepped forward. You need to send that thing away, he said. She has a name, Jack replied. I don't care. We've had missing items all week. Tools, batteries, even meds. Brought a known thief into the station. We know who's behind it. It's not her, Jack said firmly. Prove it. Jack stared him down. I don't have to. The man pushed Jack against the wall. If anything else goes missing, it's on you. Zero watched from the shadows, her hands clenched. She didn't run, she didn't cry, but her eyes burned. Later in his room, Jack was checking a fuse box when he heard a whisper behind him. Why do they hate me? He turned around. Zero stood there, her voice shaking, but her eyes steady. They don't even know me, she said. They just see what I look like, where I'm from. Jack sat beside her. Some people only see the surface, but not everyone's. Like that. She looked down. They call me a liar. But I only ever stole one time. He nodded. To survive. She looked up again, her voice barely a whisper. I didn't lie. I never lie. I believe you, Jack said again, and he meant it. But the next day, everything got worse. The alarm went off across the station, red lights flashing, sirens blaring. Someone had broken into the med bay. Valuable supplies were missing. The cameras, they showed only a shadow. But the size and shape looked small, too small to be a grown human, too small to be anyone but her. Security surrounded Jack's quarters. Zero stood frozen as the guards barged in. There's been another theft, the commander said. And we have reason to believe it was. Your guest. She didn't do it, Jack said quickly. Really? Because the camera says otherwise? She hasn't even left the room. Then explain this, the commander said, throwing a datapad in Jack's hands. It showed a figure sneaking through the vents near the med bay. Slim, fast, and just small enough to pass for. It's not me, she said louder than before. The guards raised their weapons. Jack stepped between them again. Back off. You're not arresting her. You're defending a criminal, the commander said coldly. No. I'm defending someone you already decided was guilty before even asking the truth. Zira reached out and took Jack's hand. Her fingers were cold, but her grip was strong. The commander narrowed his eyes. You've made your choice. If she's caught stealing again, you'll go down with her. As the guards left, Jack felt Zero squeeze his hand gently. She whispered, Thank you for believing me. First time, she didn't stand behind him like a shadow. She stood beside him. The station felt colder the next morning, not because of the temperature, but because of the way people stared. Jack walked into the repair bay, toolbox in hand, but no one greeted him. Normally, the other workers barely noticed him. They moved away like he was carrying a disease. He saw it written on their face, his distrust. They didn't just think. Zero was guilty now. They believed he was helping her steal. He found her sitting on a crate near the old solar panel storage. Arms wrapped around her knees, eyes quietly watching the door. She didn't speak until he came closer. "They think you're like me now," she said softly. He sat beside her, and they're finally right about something. She looked at him, eyes searching. "Should send me away."
"No, Jack!"
Said, "You don't run when someone you care about is in trouble?" Zero didn't reply, but she didn't argue either. She just stayed by his side. Later that day, a security bot rolled into the maintenance room and played a message from the commander, Engineer Jack Renner. "You are under official observation. One more missing item, and you will be detained alongside your companion." The message ended with a mechanical beep. Jack sighed, rubbing his face with both hands. "They're serious." Zero stood slowly. "Then we have to find out who is doing it?" Jack blinked. "You mean we investigate?" She nodded. "If we prove it wasn't me, they'll leave us alone." It was the first time Zero took a step toward fighting back, and Jack wasn't about to let her do it alone. That night, they moved through the dark corners of the station areas. No cameras reached, places only someone who worked here would know. Jack knew every vent, every maintenance path. Zero moved, like she was made for shadows, near the back of the med bay. They found something strange, an open panel behind the wall, leading to a hidden storage area. Inside, missing supplies were neatly stacked, not scattered, not hidden, stored like someone planned to come back for them. Jack looked at Zero. Why would a thief hide stolen things in a place they could easily be found? Zero frowned. They wouldn't unless they wanted someone else to find them? Jack pulled out a small tracking scanner from his belt and checked the crate's tag. The number was still active in the system, which meant someone was supposed to be scanning it for transport, but the name listed as the handler wasn't hers. It was Officer Bran, one of the guards who had dragged Zero across the platform just days ago. Jack clenched his fist. "They're framing you." Zero said nothing. She looked at the crate, then back at him. "Can we prove it?" He nodded. "I think I just did." But just as they turned to leave, they heard the door lock behind them. Heavy steel slammed shut. Lights flickered red. Zero backed up, eyes narrowing. Jack tried the panel. Locked from command. A voice echoed through the comm system. It was the commander. "I warned you, Jack," he said calmly. "Now, you're both going to learn what happens when you protect liars?" Jack hit the door hard. "You're protecting the real thief." But the voice didn't respond. Inside the locked room, the temperature began to drop. Cold air blew from the vents. Freezing. Silent. Deadly. Jack looked around. "It's an air purge. They're going to suffocate us." Zero didn't wait. She climbed the shelf, yanked a loose pipe from the ceiling, and smashed it into the vent. Cold mist hissed out fast, but she kept hitting. "Vent is too small," Jack said. Zero looked at the wall, then at her hands. "I'll make a bigger one." She began tearing at the wall, claws forming at her fingertips, something Jack had never seen before. She roared, pushing her strength into the metal. Sparks flew, the wall cracked. Jack stared in shock. You were hiding this." She didn't stop. "I didn't want to scare you." A hole burst open. Jack helped her climb through first, then he followed, heart pounding. They escaped through the pipes, freezing, coughing, but alive. Back in his room, Jack wrapped her in every blanket he had. She shivered, but didn't let go of his hand. "They tried to kill us," she whispered. "They're scared of the truth," Jack said. "So now we show them the truth." Zero looked at him again, her breath steadying. "Together." He nodded. "Always." Jack didn't sleep that night, not after what the commander had done, not after watching Zero nearly freeze behind a sealed door meant to be her grave. She was still curled up in the blanket beside the heater, her body recovering slowly. Her breath fogged in the air, but her eyes stayed open, watching him from across the room. "They won't stop," she said quietly. "I know," Jack replied. "That's why I have to catch the real thief myself." Zero sat up. "You'll be risking your life." He nodded. "If I don't, they'll take yours." Jack started his plan the next day. He acted normal, worked his repair shift, smiled at the guards, pretended nothing had happened. But all the while, he was planting sensors. Tiny motion trackers he built himself, hidden inside vent covers, power boxes, hallway corners. And then he waited. 3 nights later, at exactly 2:12 in the morning, one of the trackers pinged. Jack sat up from his bunk, checked the display, and narrowed his eyes. Someone was moving through the restricted hall near med storage. Zero watched him grab his coat and tools. "You found him," she said. "Time to end this," Jack whispered. He crept through the dark corridors with quiet steps. The halls were empty. The lights were dimmed. Everyone else was asleep except one. Jack spotted a shadow slipping through. A supply door. He followed. Behind the metal crates and sealed containers, he finally saw the thief. Not just a random scavenger, not another alien in rags. It was Officer Bran, still in uniform, still carrying his security pass. He moved fast and confident, like he'd done this many times before. Jack stepped back, heart pounding. He hit the record button on his scanner and followed Bran at a distance. The officer opened a crate, pulled out 2 boxes of med strips and injectors, and stuffed them into a bag. Jack's hands were shaking. He had him now. This was the proof they needed, but then Bran turned, his eyes locked right onto Jack. For a moment, neither moved. Then Bran dropped the bag and pulled his stunner. Jack ran. He turned the corner fast, ducked under a railing, and sprinted toward the maintenance shafts. Sparks flew past him, was shooting to stop him, not warn him. He slid through a service hatch and slammed it shut behind him. Crawling through the narrow shaft, he heard Bran's footsteps pounding above. When Jack finally reached the other end and climbed out, he was sweating, breathing hard but alive. He ran straight to Zira. She opened the door before he even knocked. "You're bleeding." Jack looked down. His arm had a burn mark where one of Bran's shots had grazed him. He handed her the scanner. "We got him." Zira looked at the footage. Her eyes lit with something sharp hope. "You're going public?" she asked. He nodded. "I'm going to upload this to every console on the station. Everyone will know who's really been stealing. Everyone will know they were wrong about you." Zero touched the edge of the screen. "Then they'll come for us." "They might," Jack said. "But they won't win this time." Together, they slipped into the lower control. Huban, old, dusty systems room most engineers didn't use anymore. Jack connected the scanner to the main panel, his fingers typing fast. Security warnings popped up, but he bypassed them. The footage was uploading. It would hit every public screen on the station within minutes. Suddenly, dash sirens blared. "Access denied." Jack frowned. "Someone's blocking the signal." The door behind them slammed open. Bran stood there, holding his weapon. "You should have stayed quiet," he said, stepping inside. Zira stepped in front of Jack, claws forming at her. Fingertips. Her body tensed. "Don't," Bran warned. "One move, and I burn you both." Jack didn't wait for a fight. He slammed the emergency alarm button on the wall. Lights turned red. Doors began to seal. Bran fired. The shot hit the panel beside. Jack sending sparks flying. Zira lunged. She moved fast, too fast. Her body slammed into Bran, sending him to the ground. He tried to push her off, but her claws were at his throat. Jack shouted, "Ziradon, kill him." She froze. Her breathing was heavy. Her eyes were wild, but she pulled back. Bran, shaking, looked up at them both. "You think anyone's going to believe you now?" Jack held up the scanner again. "They won't need to believe me." The system just backed up the footage to external logs. Bran's face went pale. "You're finished," Zira whispered. They were surrounded within minutes. Heavy boots stormed the hallway outside the control room. Red lights flashed. Jack could hear the metal doors locking down section by section. Commander's voice came through the speakers, cold and full. Of power, Jack Renner and the alien Zira are now fugitives. Anyone caught helping them will be punished. All security units use force. Jack looked at Zira. Her chest rose and fell, her claws still half extended. Bran lay unconscious in the corner, bound with wire. "We have to move," Jack said. Zero nodded once. They slipped through the back of the systems room, crawling into the maintenance shafts once again. The station groaned around them, every corridor alive with the sound of weapons charging, boots marching, and people whispering fear. Jack's heart pounded. His legs were shaking from the long crawl. But Zero never slowed. She moved like a ghost, silent, focused. Her alien senses guided them away from danger every time. Still, it couldn't run forever. When they reached the lower deck, a squad of soldiers waited. Jack stepped back. There's no other exit. Zero stepped in front of him. The commander's voice echoed again, this time from the hallway. You had your chance, Jack. You threw it away for a lying alien. Now you'll both answer for it. The soldiers raised their weapons. Zero stood tall. Her eyes glowed brighter than ever. And for the first time, Jack saw her change. Her body shimmered. Not fully shifting, but something beneath her skin pulsed. Her muscles tightened, her stance widened. Her hands became claws, her spine arched, and her voice deeper. Stronger filled the hall. You hurt the only person who showed me kindness. Now you'll see what I truly am. One guard laughed. Scaring us won't work, creature. But it wasn't a scare. Zero moved like lightning. She was on the first soldier before he could, Linkless ripping the rifle from his hands. She spun, knocked two others off their feet, and roared so loud the lights above flickered. One guard fired. The shot grazed her side, but it only made her faster. Jack ducked behind a crate, watching in awe and fear. He had known she was strong, but this was different. This was war. The hallway was chaos screams, smoke, sparks flying. Within 30 seconds, every guard was down, groaning, injured but alive. Zero stood in the middle of it all, her chest rising with heavy breaths, her hands stained with dust and blood. Jack stood up slowly. Shh. She turned to him. Her eyes were still glowing, but her expression had softened. I didn't want you to see this, she said. Jack walked toward her, not afraid. You saved my life. I would do it again, she replied. Every time. Suddenly sirens flared again. Jack checked the nearest console. They've locked every section above us. We're cut off from the launch bays. Zero stepped beside him. Then we go through the old escape tunnels, below the oxygen processing tanks. Jack blinked. That area's been sealed for years. Zero placed her clawed hand on the wall. Not to someone like me. As they moved deeper into the station, word spread. Crew members whispered about the fight, about the alien girl who took down a full squad alone, and the human who never left her side. Some were scared, some were impressed, but none could ignore them now. Meanwhile, the commander stood in the central hub, watching the damage reports. She's not just a thief, he growled. She's a weapon. He turned to his officers. I want them both found, now. Back in the tunnels, Jack and Zero finally reached the sealed gate. Rust covered the old panels. Dust filled the air. No power, no lights. But Zero pressed her hand against a strange lock hidden. Beneath the metal, it pulsed under her touch. The gate opened. Jack stared. How did you know that was there? Zero hesitated, then spoke. Because I was never just a starving girl. Jack waited. She looked at him with something like shame in her eyes. I was part of a rebel group. My people were hunted. Ships destroyed. I escaped and crashed near this station. I only wanted to survive. But when I stole that bread, they saw me as nothing more than a pest. Jack didn't flinch. He didn't step back. He placed a hand on her shoulder. I don't care where you came from. I care who you are now. Zero closed her eyes, steadying herself. Then she smiled, a small, tired smile. I am yours, she whispered, till the end. The old escape tunnels hadn't been used in years. Dust floated in the air like fog. Pipes leaked steam from cracked joints. Lights flickered dimly, or didn't work at all. But Zero walked with confidence, guiding Jack through the darkness like she had been here before. Behind them, alarms echoed through the metal walls. Jack checked his scanner. Every security unit is moving. They've blocked every route except this one. Zero didn't look back. They want us trapped. They think no one will help us. Jack nodded. They might be right. Just then, his CUM device buzzed. He opened the line carefully. A voice whispered from the other end. Jack, it's Mira. I saw what you uploaded. I believe you. You need to reach the freight elevator shaft. I'll unlock it from my end. Zira's ears perked up. Someone's helping? Jack smiled. Not everyone's blind. They changed course, climbing over rusted crates and crawling under fallen beams. Zira moved first, checking each corner, sniffing the air for traps or movement. Jack followed close behind, trusting her every step. They reached the elevator shaft an hour later. Mira's voice came through again. I've opened the hatch. You need to jump to the lower cable and slide down. There's a ship waiting in Dock 4. I delayed the lockdown. You have 15 minutes. Zira didn't hesitate. She leapt. Her claws grabbed the cable with ease, and she slid down like wind. Jack looked down the dark shaft, took a deep breath, and jumped. He landed rough but safe. Zira caught him as he stumbled. Are you okay? Just sore? Let's keep moving. But as they ran toward the docking bay, voices echoed from above the commander. He stood at the upper level, looking down at them with cold eyes and a weapon in hand. You two caused a lot of damage, he said. Do you really think you can just fly away? Us. Zira stepped in front of Jack, claws raised, but the commander didn't fire instead. From the shadows behind him, another figure moved. It was Officer Brandface, bruised arm, bandaged, and in his hand another weapon. Jack tensed. Two of them now. But Brand didn't aim at Jack. He aimed at the commander. I've had enough of your lies, Brand said. You tried to kill a girl for something you did. You turned this whole station into your personal hunting ground. The commander turned, shocked. You little traitor. A blast echoed. Smoke rose from the upper level. The commander fell. To the floor, clutching his side, Brand lowered his weapon. Go now. Zira looked up at him. Why help us? Brand gave a small nod. Because I saw the recording, and I saw her. She didn't attack to kill. She attacked to protect. Jack didn't wait. He grabbed Zira's hand, and they ran. Down the final hallway, past stunned crew members who didn't dare stop them. Some watched silently. Some looked away. And one or two even whispered, Go. Dock 4 opened just in time. A small freighter ship sat waiting, engines warm, ramp down. Zira pulled Jack up the ramp. I can fly it, she said, barely. Jack sealed the door behind them. Gunfire hit the hull as they lifted off. Soldiers reached the hangar, but they were too late. The ship roared to life and blasted out into space. Jack slumped into the co-pilot's seat. Heart racing, we made it, he said. Zira didn't speak at first. She stared at the stars ahead, her hand still holding the controls tightly. Then she turned to him. No one's ever run from me before, she said. Jack smiled. I didn't run, I flew. Zira laughed softly. It was the first time Jack had heard that sound from her. It was quiet, unsure, but real. They drifted through the dark sky. Two fugitives hunted by a system that failed them. But in that silence, there was peace. Not because they were safe, but because they were free together. The stars moved slowly outside the ship's window. Zira sat in the pilot's seat. Quiet and calm, her eyes focused on the screen in front of her. Jack sat beside her, fingers typing fast as he prepared the final upload. The truth they had risked. Everything for it was ready. Every second of footage, every secret, every lie. Zira leaned closer. Are you sure they'll listen? Jack looked at her. They don't have a choice now. He pressed the button. The data packet shot out into. The galaxy beamed toward every station, ship, and news network within range. Within minutes, the broadcast went live. Zira's arrest, Brand's confession, the commander's betrayal, and her strength not as a killer, but as a protector. Screens across the sector lit up. On mining colonies, in trade hubs, even in orbiting. Capital's people watched in silence, some with shame, others with wide, stunned eyes. Messages started pouring in. I'm sorry. We didn't know. She was only trying to survive. Bring them back, we were wrong. Inside the ship, Jack turned to Zero. You're not a thief anymore. You're a symbol. She didn't smile. Not yet. Her hands trembled softly. It won't erase what they did. No, Jack said. But it gives you the power to choose what happens next. A few hours later, the cum pinged. It was Bran. The commander has been arrested, he said. The council wants to speak to you both. They're offering full pardon and compensation. Zira's voice was firm. We don't need their coins. They want you back, Bran said. Not in chains. As a guest, a hero. Jack looked. At her? It's your decision. Zira stood and walked to the window. The stars reflected in her glowing blue eyes. For the first time in her life, no one was chasing her. No one was yelling at her. No one was pointing weapons at her. She had power now earned, not given. They didn't believe me when I said I wasn't lying, she whispered. They believed you. Jack walked beside her, 'cause I believed in you first. Zira looked up. If I go back, I don't go alone. You won't, Jack said. Not now. Not ever. She finally smiled, small and soft, but strong. They turned the ship around as they approached the station. The docking bay opened without a single warning shot. This time, no weapons were. Waiting, no cuffs, no cruel words, only silence and respect. People stepped back as Zero walked down the ramp. Jack stayed at her side, hand in hers. Every step steady. A group of officials stood near the entrance, heads bowed. One stepped forward, an elder woman in silver robes. We failed you, she said. All of us. The station is yours to speak. Two? Now. Zero didn't shout. She didn't raise her claws. She simply looked around at the faces, some ashamed, some in awe, some holding back tears. And then she spoke. I was not a thief, she said. I was hungry. I was scared. And all I wanted was to survive. No one interrupted. Zira continued, her voice stronger now. You feared me because I was different. But the only one who saw me as a person was him. She looked at Jack. He nodded. If he hadn't stepped forward, you would have killed me. People lowered their heads. Zero turned. I won't stay here. But I will leave this place knowing I'm not broken, not a shadow, and I'm not alone. She walked back toward the ship. Someone clapped. Then another. Then the whole dock erupted with applause, not out of guilt, but backed inside. The ship, as they launched once again into open space, Zira leaned against Jack's shoulder. Where now? She asked. Jack smiled. Anywhere we want. Zira closed her eyes. As long as it's with you. And the stars ahead opened wide. For them both, no longer fugitives, no longer forgotten, but free, and forever side by side.